Hi friends, it's Adam, the crippled cannabis cowboy. Thanks for checking out another one of my Crips and Buds videos. I'm a cripple and I like to grow buds of cannabis. If you learned something from this and you found it fruitful in some kind of way, subscribe to my channel. Help me out a little bit. Probably the most common question, well, there's a lot of common questions, but what kind of newts do I give it? What do I give it? What should I buy? All I'm gonna do is share how I started. I still, to this day, I don't give many nutrients to my plant. It depends on the soil. So that's kind of what it comes down to. When I first started, I didn't get any newts. I mean, shit, I think I got the Fox Farm Trio, those three little bottles. That's where it started for me. I really, actually, that didn't come until later. I bought potting soil and all I did was give it water. And you could buy any potting soil that you prefer. I had my preferences. Look up online, figure out what you want, but you could straight up use Miracle Grow. I don't recommend that shit, but you could, from start to finish. You would be completely fine with no nutrients, not having to add anything. That's because of what's in that soil. So that was the first step for me, is looking at my media. uh, am I making my own? Am I reusing old shit? Am I buying some new potting soil? If it's potting soil, it's pretty much fine. You just make yourself a 3 gallon, 5 gallon. I'm an indoor guy, so fill it with the potting soil, whether it's Fox Farm, and it could be Happy Frog, open Ocean Forest. There's a lot. There's freaking Coast of Maine. That's one of my favorites. That Stonington blend is so far one of my favorites for growing cannabis for myself. Um, I did come across better stuff, and believe it or not, the better stuff that I have saw was stuff that I made myself. So it's weird. You could start small, man. Get yourself some potting soil, fill a 5 gallon pot, and after your seedling gets established and has roots and it's ready to come out of its solo cup, and you're gonna transplant it for the first time. If you have potting soil, you don't gotta worry about no nutrients. Now that's at the beginner level. As you get more advanced in growing, the nutrients thing starts to add up. So if you're making your own, you need nutrients. If you have potting soil, you don't need nutrients to start. You will later. However, that weighs into how long do you want to grow? How long is that plant going to be in that pot? And how big does it get? If you got a big plant in a 5 gallon pot, it's not going to take very long to eat all the food in there. If you got a little plant in a 5 gallon pot, the food is still around for a little while, so you got to time it. Typically, when I transplant, I'll top dress like 3 weeks after that I put it in that 5 gallon soil that I did. Now I use dry amendments, so they got to break down. There's like a whole timing thing. So when you get all these steps ironed out on, where you want to do it, how many plants you want to have, what kind of soil you want to use, that'll answer a lot of questions for you on nutrients. And to be honest with you, the best growers that I have seen, they they don't do much, man. The best plants that I've grown, I joke with my friends sometimes because it's like only water. That's it. If you put in what it needs to start, then just you need only water, I guess. Another question I see quite often, and actually I ask myself, is how long do I veg for? And I noticed for myself there's two answers to that. And the first answer is what's your plant count with the size of the tent that you have. For me, I noticed growing a plant, my time of the plant in veg, I kind of judge. I look at the floor, and when 50% of the floor is covered with green, that's time to flip the flower. There's, 50% is fine. Now, if you only have like one plant in a 2x4, now then it comes down to fun. You could do the 50% thing, but that might take a little while. If you got a 4x4 tent, you can actually max it out to one plant touching all the sides. However, it's going to take a long time. Sometimes I don't have that time, so you could do other things when it comes to plant count. So instead of vegging for like 3 months, that'll give you a freaking huge plant, by the way. You can veg for, well, even if you veg for 2 months, that's going to be a big plant. But as you play with this, how long do you want to veg for in your space? However, is it connected to a plant count? Because, I'm across from me, there's like a 5x3 basically, and I can fill up the floor about 50% of the way, and then I can flip it to flower, be totally freaking fine. However, if I got 3 plants in there, then I can let them, maybe I got 2 plants in there. I let the duration of time go by to where it fills the tent up 50% of the way before I flip it to flower. Now, there's other methods that you could do too that I still gotta explore with. So basically, when it comes down to me, like harvesting my own medicine, I weigh those two options as far as how long do I want to veg for, and looking at the floor, how much green do I see? How many plants do I have? What is my plant count? If I got 2 plants, filling up 50% of a 5x3, it's going to take a little while, you know what I mean? However, maybe I have 10 plants in there. When it fills 50% of the floor, I got enough space to do flower if I do it right then and there. If you let those plants get big, flower ain't going to work. They start to touch the sides, you start to touch the light, all the air is messed up. So it creates a lot more headaches than it's worth. Other than soil, how many plants or how long for veg, there was like another thing that it was kind of like basic knowledge, but the veg stage, dude, they like hot and steamy. That's me. That's what I do. When I grow my plants, I'm thinking of the temperature. It's usually about 75 degrees in there. And my humidity, I try to get that same number. Not try to, but a lot of time it's like 65, 75. When it's warm and steamy, they like that. Plants like that in the veg. Now, as I transition to flowering, I slowly reduce those numbers, both of them. So it's just something I do, and it really, really helps. It kind of went into that whole basics thing, to where once I understood the basics of what kind of soil, how long, how many plants, God, is it hot and humid, like the environment. When I started to nail all these basics down, I started to understand a lot better. Now that translated into many things. I use products now. I still really don't feed my plants. I will top dress them. I will start them with the soil that they need. I guess the top dressing is like feeding, but that's like the soil and what's for the plant. There's like another world to that. And the world that I've been dipping into is like the water and the fungal content, or the bacterial or microbes or stuff like that. Like, it's another world. It's got a lot to do with what's happening inside the soil so much than the plant itself, but it helps the plant. So it's like it's two sides of a coin, and you need that coin to flip it, because if you don't got the coin, you ain't gonna flip it. So I use something called Drops of Balance. I freaking love these products, by the way. The Drops of Balance, it kind of works like my water cleaner. It prevents all the bad shit in my water from being uptaken into the plant. It's very scientific. You could look into it, whatever. But I've been a fan of Drops of Balance for a few years now, and that translated into other things. Something called BAM. It's badass microbes. I love that stuff. Now, it's not the only microbes that I use. Like I said, the doors swing open and you can run around in there and do your learning. And don't be afraid to fuck up, man. You're gonna screw shit up. So take notes. If you screw something up, take a note of how bad you screwed up. Well, you're going to remember that anyway and apply it for the next time.